So we're going to start by taking the feet wide. Maybe turn the feet out. So you want to have the feet moving in the same direction as your knees. So if you can't rotate the legs very wide and the knees are here, the feet will need to follow that line because you don't want the feet and the knees going in a different direction. So just shift your weight from side to side. And what you can do, as you come over to one side, you push into that foot and that shift you over. So you're going to use the ground. You push into that foot and that'll shift you over. So you're kind of using the ground to shift us from side to side. So we're pushing our weight into the ground, we lift up to the side, push the weight into the ground that side, and then we come back over. So just see how that feels. And then you're going to come into the middle. And you've got a choice. If that's comfortable, you can stay in the squatting position. Keep pushing down through the feet so you can feel your glutes engaging, your thighs engaging, and a little bit of your pelvic floor engaging. And then we're just going to do some shoulder rolls. You're going to place one hand on top of the other. Now, whichever hand is on top, you roll that shoulder back and you bring it underneath the other hand. And then you roll that shoulder back and down and you bring it underneath. So just kind of replacing one hand with the other while you roll the shoulders back as well. So you might get a bit of crunching. I'm getting a lot of crunching. Autumn always makes me crunch. I always feel like I'm like, you know, when the leaves go all brown and dried up on the trees. That's kind of how I feel in autumn. So a couple more times, noticing how that feels. And then you can relax the arms, relax the legs in a little shake, but we're not done here. So now we are going to do another move that's going to create some space around the sides. So you're going to place one hand on top of the other, doesn't matter which one. You're going to come back into your squatting position. So you're going to come over to the right. So as you breathe in, you're going to push into the left foot. Come over to the right and lift the elbow as much as you can. And then on the out breath, you come down through the centre, both knees bend. And then on the in breath, you push into the right foot so that you can then lift the elbow up to the left. And then you push back down. Okay, so you're just kind of swinging from side to side. Again, using the pressure in the foot, so you're pushing into the foot to move from side to side. And then you're aiming to lift the elbow up towards the ceiling. Sorry. Go back on the ball, see if that helps. Or on all fours, or give them a good talking to. Is it your sides?
I think, yeah. I've hurt these muscles as well, so I think
it's bruised your abs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun one. My son kicked like absolute Billy-O inside, and then he just carried on once he was out. Okay, and then coming up. And then we're just going to do some circles. We're going to start with the knees bent. We're going to breathe in, push the feet into the ground, take the arms up over the head, and then cross them over in front and bend the knees all the way back down. So Ujjayi breathing, ocean breath. You've got a nice amount of time where you can control the breath. And just do one more. And then come up. So now you can turn the feet slightly further forwards and slide the hands all the way down. So the back stretch now. So the knees can bend as much as you like. And what you're going to do is drape your hands from one side to the other. So almost as if you were running your fingers like seaweed blowing in the water. So you shift your weight to one side, then you push that foot into the ground and drift over to the other side. So a nice stretch in the back, nice stretch in the legs. And then when you're ready, come back to the centre, push the feet into the ground and slowly uncurl. And then we're going to bring the legs together. So bring your heels in, bring your toes in, bring your heels in, bring your toes in, until you're pretty much back to the centre. So this next move is another pelvic girdle strengthener. It's particularly good for people when they've got SPD, because walking or doing any sort of asymmetrical movement is what twists the pelvis. But even without having SPD, it's really, really good to strengthen the glutes. It's quite a challenging bit of work. You're going to bring your hands onto your hips, and you're going to find your hip bones if you can, and notice where your hips are, and you're going to try and keep the hips level. So we're just going to do some simple heel lifts. So on an inhale, just going to lift the right heel up, and on the exhale, you're going to lift it down, put it down, and then same on the other side. Now, what I want you to do is make sure that your hips aren't moving. So when we do heel lifts, it's fairly easy to bring the hips into neutral, so we're not allowing the hips to lift. However, what we're going to do now is lift the knees up, but still maintain a neutral pelvis, and that's where it's a little bit trickier, because normally when we lift a knee, the hips will tilt. Now we've got to use our pelvic girdle muscles to keep the pelvis in neutral while we take one leg up and then the other. It's also good for our balance. So balancing when you're pregnant is really useful. Now if you've got a really spongy mat, because like I have, and your balance is a little bit wonky, you might want to just come off your mat and come onto the carpet instead. So same again on the in-breath. Slow ocean breath, lift the knee. On the out-breath, slow ocean breath, lower it down. And when we slow everything down, we suddenly find there are muscles that we might not have been using, because momentum would have been carrying us through these movements. You might find now that the bits of your body is going, oh, that's interesting, there's some muscles there I haven't been using. We might be fine. So, last round. Next time you bring the left leg down, you can finish. So then we're going to work with a balance, and what I'm going to suggest is that you use the wall. So if you have your right hand against the wall, so that means half of you are going to have your back to me. Oh, do you want to do left side then, if you're on that side? Just transpose my instructions. So this is just really to give you some support. What you might find is actually you're fine when you come to the balance. In that case, you can just take the hand away from the wall, or just maybe put the fingertips on. It's just there for support. You don't have to use it. You need to have your the leg that's nearest the wall is going to be your standing leg. So make sure it's straight. So you don't want to be slightly off to the side, that way or that way. Otherwise, it's not going to support you. So it needs to be completely vertical. And then push into the four corners of that foot. And just turn the opposite leg out. So you're coming out at a right angle. So you can start with the toes on the floor, and that may be all the balance you need today. So particularly if you're feeling a little bit wonky, keep the toes resting on the floor. Otherwise, slide the foot up the shin. And then you've got your hand on the wall, and then the other hand you're going to open out to the side. So you might even feel brave enough to just lift the fingertips away from the wall. Fix the gaze on the floor in front of you. Push the foot that's on the ground into the earth, just as we've been doing. And work with your Ujjayi breath. If you wobble and you fall down, it's okay. Just let the toes touch the floor and then reset and go again. So balancing, as I was saying, when you're pregnant is really useful because your body shape is changing all the time and your centre of gravity is changing all the time. And it's really easy to lose your balance because you're never really given an opportunity to settle into your centre of gravity because then it keeps changing, keeps changing. So working with balance is really useful in pregnancy. So then you can come down and then you're going to swap sides. So come the other way. Now everyone's got their back to me, but you know what you're doing, so it's fine. So you're going to just let your fingertips rest lightly against the wall and then press that same leg down into the ground. So really keep that connection to the earth and then just turn out the opposite leg. First stage is to just rest your toes onto the floor with the heel resting against your ankle. If you feel that you can get a bit more out of your balance, you can slide that foot up the shin and then take the opposite arm out to the sides as well. Now keep pushing down into the foot that's connecting to the earth, but don't lock the knee. Don't straighten the knee on the standing leg. Just keep it unlocked. Keep pushing the leg into the ground. You might even be able to do a little rib lift, so lifting the ribs lightly away from your baby and from your pelvis. And then that slow, steady ocean breath. Fix the gaze on the ground so you can keep your attention. And when you're ready, you can gently release and come down. That's great, that side. You weren't looking this way, you all was looking this way. It wasn't good, but yeah, that way was really good. You all held that balance. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to curl down now, come to the end of our standing session. So you can just bend the knees and take all the time you want to curl down. You might want to dangle here for a while, maybe sweep around from side to side to get some more space into your back. And then when you want to come all the way down to the ground, keep bending the knees, bring the hands to the floor and walk the hands forwards. And then swing the legs around to one side, and come back, and then stretch the legs out in front. Okay, so last little move, we're just going to do an outer hip stretch. So again, a good pelvic girdle movement, also really good for the sacroiliac joint if you're feeling it a bit tight around here. So you're going to take your right leg, bring it up and over, and then bring your hands onto the front of that leg. So you want to have the outer edge of the foot on the floor and allow that right knee to drop down towards the floor. So you might not be able to get it all the way around, so if it's here, that's fine. You want to feel the stretch running down the outside of the legs. This is your iliotibial band, your ITB, and also some of your hip flexor muscles as well. We're just going to stay here for a few breaths, relax your shoulders, but let the ribs lift lightly away. And then just a few ocean breaths. And then gently release that leg. Take it out, give the legs a shake. Do the same on the other side. It might feel different. So one side might be tighter than the other. And then again, you can bring your hands onto the front of the knee. So you might feel this more in your hamstrings. So the difficulty with this pose is that the top knee is pushing down the bottom knee, which essentially is making that hamstring stretch more pronounced. So you might actually find with this one that your hamstring is shouting at you more than your hip is, but you'll probably still get in the stretch in the hip. And then taking a breath. And when you breathe out, next time you can just give the legs a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a wriggle, And then we're just going to, before we lie down, just do a couple of minutes of counted breathing. And I'll explain why that's going to be a useful thing to do. So coming into whatever position you're comfortable with. So you might want to go back to sitting up against the wall. You might want to be cross-legged or butterfly pose or legs stretched out in front. I'm going to work with the ocean breath again. But what you're going to do is count your in-breath and count your out-breath. And what you can do is, so this is rhythmical breathing. There's been a lot of studies recently done on rhythmical breathing for the heart rate variable. And so very good for mindfulness as well, keeps the mind occupied. And also quite useful in labour as well when you're having contractions to just do this counting. It's a distraction, but also it kind of tells you how long your contractions are. So if you know that you can count to 17 or 18 or something, or do so many rounds of breathing. But we're just going to do a really simple count. So closing your eyes, bringing your attention back to your breath, and then just engaging that contraction around your throat. So creating this ocean breath. And then, as you breathe in, just mentally counting 1 and 2 and 3 and just up to as many as you can on the in-breath. There's no destination, doesn't matter what the count is. And then when you breathe out, do the same thing again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you might find that your in-breath is maybe 4 or 5. You might find the out-breath is 8, 9 or 10. You might find it's the other way round. Doesn't matter. So the number of the count isn't important. It's just the act of harnessing the mental awareness. So it's a form of meditation to fix the mind on one particular thing. Just do one more round. And then when you finish that last round, you can let go of the counting and just let go of your control breathing and just let the breathing find its own rhythm. And just notice how that feels. Notice if the mind is in a different place. Is there a sense of calmness in mind? Okay, so we're just going to finish off the rest of the session lying down for relaxation. So if you want to come into your comfortable position lying down,